Well, a federal judge in Maryland blocked President Trump's attempt to keep the FBI headquarters in D.C. instead of relocating to Greenbelt, Maryland. Now, last year, the Trump administration announced the FBI headquarters would move into the Ronald Reagan Building, despite a decision in 2023 by the Government Services Administration, or GSA, to move the campus to Maryland. And joining us now to help sort through the legal questions of this case and what is likely to happen next is Paul Berman, professor at the George Washington University School of Law. Professor, thanks very much for taking the time to be with us.
Happy to be here as always.
And, first, this ruling, there's a lot to this battle back and forth here. Can you please explain the judge's ruling for us?
Sure. So usually when Congress delegates authority to an agency to do something, the agency has some discretion. And you could imagine the General Services Administration under the Biden administration might think something different from the same agency under the Trump administration. And agencies can indeed change policies. And we've seen the Trump administration change a lot of Biden policies. But the problem in this case is that Congress actually enacted statutes in 2022 and 2024 that said that the GSA could only choose from among three sites in deciding where this building should be and where the FBI should be located. And none of the three sites that were in the statute are the one that the Trump administration now wants to use, which is the Ronald Reagan Building. Although agencies get some discretion and the executive gets some discretion, this really ends up being a battle about the executive, in this case the Trump administration, trying to get around an actual congressional statute and the funding decisions that were made as a result of that statute. And so then it becomes a constitutional battle between Congress's power to enact statutes and the executive's obligation to follow that statute as opposed to completely trying to get around it.
So you're saying the judge here was saying essentially this battle has kind of switched lanes. It wasn't where it really belongs based on it just coming down to those statutes. Professor, that being said, how much discretion does an administration usually have on projects like this?
Well, so if the statute had said, we're going to allocate funds for a new FBI building, GSA, you get to decide where you want to put that building. And then the Biden administration had said one thing, and then the Trump administration had said another. As long as the Trump administration gave a reasoned basis for changing the position, then usually the agency would get discretion to do that. What makes this case different is that Congress was very specific in its statute that only three possible locations were permissible for the GSA to choose among. And the Trump administration is not choosing any of those three.
This fight, of course, Professor, has been going on for years. How likely will this ruling lead to the headquarters moving to Maryland in the near future? Or do you think we're looking at a really drawn out legal process now, the door open to even more challenges? What do you think?
Well, first of all, I think that the administration may try to appeal this ruling, which in and of itself will delay things until there's an appellate court ruling. If the appellate court overturns the lower court, then maybe the Trump administration will go forward with their plan to do it in the Reagan Building. But assuming this ruling stands, I suspect that the Trump administration may just try to run out the clock and not do anything with the building, at least until there is a new presidency and perhaps a new Congress to enact a new statute. Now, of course, nothing prevents the Trump administration from going to this Congress and getting a new statute that says, please put the FBI building in the Ronald Reagan Building, and and allocating money for that. That could happen, but that requires Congress to actually enact a new statute. And whether the Trump administration wants to go through that legislative process is unclear.
Have we seen, similar cases like this in the past few decades, recent history? And do you think this ruling now will have implications for any other projects? We know there's a lot happening right now around the district.
Well, there's a lot of building projects that it might be relevant to, but really this is a broader debate about Congress's power vis-a-vis the president, and particularly when Congress is allocating money for a specific purpose that Congress says, here's the purpose. The question is, can the Trump administration ignore that and simply move that money to somewhere where Congress hasn't allocated it? And so that really implicates what we call the power of the purse, the idea that Congress controls the budget. And the Trump administration on many fronts, both in the original Trump administration and now in the second version, has tried to reallocate money that Congress has imposed for certain purposes, or refused to spend money that Congress has allocated for certain purposes. And so that is a much deeper, bigger constitutional question about Congress's power versus the executive.
Summarize that so nicely for us there, Professor. Thank you again for taking the time. Professor Paul Berman of the George Washington University School of Law, thank you for your insight, and we'll be watching for what comes next, possibly from the Trump administration here. Thanks for taking the time.
Happy to do it.
All right, take care and stay with us. It is